The sky above Earth was quiet, peaceful, and filled with the soft glow of distant stars. But far beyond the solar system, a storm was forming. In the blackness of space, massive ships drifted with a strange elegance. Their metal hulls glimmered with strange colors, and each ship carried weapons that could destroy entire planets. The aliens known as the Vorin were coming, and they believed the humans would fall without a fight. On board the largest Vorin ship, a figure stood on a raised platform, looking down at a holographic map of the solar system. His armor was dark and sharp-edged, his face hidden behind a mask that showed only glowing red eyes. This was General Krath, one of the most feared leaders in the galaxy. He had conquered hundreds of worlds, and he had never faced a species as unpredictable as humans. Yet he laughed. "Humans," he said to the other generals, his voice cold and confident. "Pathetic creatures. Their weapons are weak, their ships are slow. They will run, and we will crush them. Nothing in the galaxy can stop us." The other generals nodded, their faces serious. They trusted Krath's experience. After all, they had never failed in a conquest before. But Krath did not notice the smallest flicker of movement on the holographic map, a single blue dot, tiny and almost invisible. That dot represented Earth, a world that the Vorin considered primitive. Back on Earth, Commander Rian stood in the control room of the orbital defense station. The room was full of blinking screens, humming machines, and nervous scientists. Ryan was a tall man with sharp eyes and a calm presence. He had spent years preparing for the day the aliens would arrive, but nothing could fully prepare him for the moment when a massive fleet appeared in the outer solar system. "Sir, we've detected multiple alien ships entering the asteroid belt near Mars," said Lieutenant Mara, pointing at the display. "They are large, heavily armed, and moving fast." Rian nodded. He did not panic. Humans had always faced threats much larger than themselves. They had survived natural disasters, invasions, and wars, and now they would face the Vorin. "Alert all colonies," Rian ordered. "Prepare the drones, deploy the scouts, and get the fighters ready. If they think we will run, they are wrong." Mara hesitated. "Sir, the Vorin are stronger than anything we've faced. Are we ready?" Ryan smiled faintly. "We are always ready. Humans are stronger than they think. And we have something they do not: imagination." Far from Earth, the Vorin fleet moved with precision. Their weapons glowed, ready to strike. Yet even as they approached, they did not notice the strange patterns of energy that the humans had placed across the solar system. Earth's defenses were modest in appearance but clever in design. Minefields floated in asteroid belts. Decoy drones led invisible traps. Humans had learned to use every advantage, even when it seemed impossible. On the first day of battle, scouts spotted the Vorin fleet near Mars. The aliens laughed at the small human ships that darted between the asteroids. To them, it was a game. But humans did not play games, they survived. Commander Ryan ordered the drones to move in unpredictable patterns, weaving through the asteroids and disappearing into shadows. General Krath watched from his command deck, growing impatient. "Move faster," he shouted. "They cannot hide forever. They are only humans." But humans were clever. The drones split into dozens of small groups, each group attacking in ways the Vorin did not expect. Mines hidden in the asteroids exploded near alien ships, forcing them to change direction. Fighters appeared suddenly from nowhere, striking with precision, then vanishing before the aliens could respond. Krath's laughter turned into frustration. He had fought countless species, yet these humans were unlike any he had faced. They were small, weak, and fragile, but their movements were unpredictable. Their courage made them dangerous. On Earth, Ryan watched the battle unfold with calm determination. "We are not strong like the Vorin," he said quietly to Mara, "but we are smart. Every move they make, we learn. Every mistake they make, we use. That is how humans win." The first clash ended without a decisive victory for either side. The Vorin expected an easy conquest, but humans had surprised them. A few ships were damaged, and the aliens began to realize that Earth was not a simple target. At night, on a quiet base on the moon, engineers and scientists worked tirelessly. They repaired drones, recalculated trajectories, and planned the next moves. Children of the colonies watched from safe windows, their eyes wide with wonder and fear. Even in the face of an alien fleet, humans continued to learn, adapt, and unite. Far away, General Krath clenched his fists. The humans had survived the first attack. They had lived when he expected them to die. And now he knew one thing for certain. Humans were clever, dangerous, and impossible to predict. Commander Rian looked at the stars and whispered, "This is only the beginning. We will show them what humans can do." The calm of space was broken by the hum of engines and the flash of distant weapons. A war was beginning, but humans were ready to fight. Not just to survive, but to prove that courage, intelligence, and unity could stand against even the most powerful enemies in the galaxy. The red dust of Mars glowed faintly under the light of the distant sun. In the shadows of the asteroid belt, humans and aliens prepared for their first real battle. Commander Rian's fleet moved with quiet determination. Small human fighters darted between asteroids, their engines leaving tiny trails of blue light. Drones hovered silently, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Every move was planned, yet unpredictable enough to confuse the enemy. On the Voran flagship, General Krath's eyes followed the humans' movements with growing irritation. "They are clever," he admitted, though his voice remained harsh. "But cleverness alone cannot save them. Strike with full power. Show them their place." Krath's fleet surged forward. Massive warships, bristling with energy cannons, moved like predators ready to crush their prey. But the humans were not afraid. They knew their strength did not come from raw power, but from intelligence and creativity. Rian gave his first command. "Deploy the decoys. Lead them into the asteroid field." The drones split into dozens of tiny lights weaving between the rocks. Some disappeared entirely, hiding behind asteroids while others attacked the edges of the Voran fleet. The aliens, trained to expect straight attacks, were confused. Their cannons fired at targets that vanished, wasting energy and exposing themselves to counterattacks. Lieutenant Mara pointed to the display. "They are following the decoys, sir. We have a chance to hit their supply ships." Rian nodded. "Good. Target the supply ships first. Without them, their fleet will slow." Humans moved swiftly. Small fighters zipped through the gaps between massive alien vessels. Mines, carefully hidden inside asteroids, detonated near alien supply ships. Explosions rocked the fleet, sending fire and debris into the void. A supply vessel was destroyed, and the humans cheered silently in the control room. On the Voran flagship, General Krath slammed his fist on the command table. "Impossible," he shouted. "They are too small. Too weak. How do they do this?" The other generals looked uneasy. No alien had ever survived such a chaotic attack. The humans were using the environment, their speed and unpredictable movements to gain advantage. For the first time, the Voran felt the sting of fear. Back on Earth, engineers monitored every system. Communications buzzed as human pilots reported the locations of enemy ships. "Target destroyed," one voice said. "Supply vessel eliminated." "Ready for next move," Rian smiled. "Keep pushing. Every move forces them to make mistakes. That is our advantage." As the battle continued, humans showed remarkable coordination. Fighters split into smaller groups, attacking different sections of the alien fleet. One group feigned retreat, drawing the Voran into a trap. Mines hidden in the asteroid belt exploded, damaging alien engines. Another group swooped in from behind, striking where the Voran least expected. General Krath's confidence was cracking. "Adapt," he commanded his generals. "Adapt or fail." But adapting was not easy for the Voran. Their ships were massive and difficult to maneuver. They relied on strength and precision, not creativity. Humans, by contrast, could change tactics instantly. Every trap they set, every distraction they created, forced the aliens to react, and every reaction made them slower. In the chaos, a human fighter led a daring attack on the alien flagship's communications array. Sparks flew as the ship's systems were damaged. For a moment, the Voran generals lost coordination. Commands were delayed, and alien ships collided with asteroids in the confusion. Rian watched carefully. "Hold position. Wait for the right moment." His calm presence steadied his fleet. Humans were small but disciplined. Their movements were precise, and every pilot understood the plan. Courage and intelligence worked together like a single machine. Hours passed. The asteroid field was filled with smoke and debris. The Voran fleet had suffered damage but still remained formidable. Yet they had underestimated humans, and now they were paying the price. Finally, Rian gave the signal for withdrawal. Human fighters retreated quickly, vanishing into the shadows of the asteroid belt. The aliens fired blindly, hitting empty space, wasting energy and ammunition. Krath's anger burned. "They survive again. How can such fragile creatures resist us?" he demanded. His generals looked to him for answers, but there were none. Humans had done what no alien had done before. They had survived the first clash and forced fear into the hearts of conquerors. Back on Earth, the control room erupted with relief. Engineers checked systems, pilots reported damages, and Ryan stood quietly. He did not celebrate loudly. Victory was small and temporary. The war was just beginning, and the humans had shown the galaxy that they would not give up. That night on a small moon station orbiting Mars, young cadets watched the stars. They had seen humans fight with courage and wit. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans were not defeated. They had survived, adapted, and struck back. Commander Ryan looked out at the stars. His mind was already planning the next battle. Humans were not the strongest, but they were clever, brave, and united. And as long as they remained that way, no enemy, no matter how powerful, could easily conquer them. General Krath, meanwhile, stared at the distant blue dot of Earth. He had underestimated humans, and now he knew the cost of arrogance. Laughter had turned into frustration, and he realized that victory would not be simple. The first clash had ended, but the war was only beginning. Humans had survived, and the galaxy would soon learn that intelligence, courage, and unity could triumph over even the most terrifying force. The battle near Mars had ended, but the war was far from over. Commander Ryan studied the reports with quiet intensity. Every human ship had survived, but the Voran fleet remained strong. The aliens had learned from the first clash and were now more cautious. They moved differently, fired more carefully, and monitored human tactics closely. "We cannot rely on the same moves again," Ryan said to Lieutenant Mara. "They are watching us. We need to change, adapt, and stay unpredictable." Mara nodded. "Sir, what if we split the fleet? Smaller groups can strike faster and confuse them even more." Ryan smiled faintly. "Exactly. Humans survive because we can think, change, and act quickly. The Voran cannot do that as easily. We will use it." Meanwhile, far from Earth, General Krath gathered his generals. "They are cleverer than I thought," he admitted. "We must adapt our strategies. Every trick they used must be countered. They will not be easy to defeat." Krath's generals exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, they felt doubt. The humans were small, weak, and fragile, but their ability to adapt made them dangerous. Ryan's plan was simple yet bold. Using data from the first battle, humans identified weaknesses in the Voran supply lines. Supplies, communications, and small support vessels moved slower and were less protected. Humans decided to strike there first. A small strike team prepared for the mission. Pilots checked weapons, engineers ran final systems tests, and scouts mapped every asteroid and debris field. "Remember," Ryan told them, "this is not just a battle. It is a test. If we can disrupt their supply, we force them to make mistakes. They will show us openings and we will strike." The humans launched quietly. Their small ships moved like shadows through the asteroid belt. They avoided the main fleet and targeted the vulnerable supply lines. Mines hidden in space detonated near Voran transports, damaging engines and forcing them to slow down. One human pilot, Soren, led a daring maneuver. He flew directly into a narrow corridor between two massive alien vessels. Energy beams fired at him, but Soren's quick thinking and precise control allowed him to dodge every shot. He planted an explosive device on a supply ship and vanished before the aliens could react. From the command station, Ryan watched carefully. "Good, that is how we win. Not by strength, but by strategy. By thinking faster than they do." The Voran generals struggled to respond. Their large ships were powerful but slow to adapt. Every human strike forced them to change direction, and every change slowed their fleet. Frustration grew on the Voran flagship. General Krath banged his fist on the table. Why do they survive? Why do they always survive? Ryan and Mara discussed the next move. "We cannot attack directly," Mara said. "They are stronger. But if we keep disrupting their logistics, they will lose coordination, and then we can strike in full force." Ryan nodded. "Exactly. Patience and planning are our greatest weapons. Humans win because we learn, adapt, and work together. That is something no alien fleet can match." In the asteroid field, humans continued their small raids. Drones appeared suddenly from hidden locations, striking vulnerable ships, then disappearing. Fighters used narrow paths to avoid detection, slipping past massive warships to reach weak points. The Voran tried to adapt, but humans were unpredictable. Even as the humans attacked, they communicated constantly. Pilots shared information in real time. Engineers updated systems on the fly, and every human acted as part of a single coordinated effort. The Vorin, used to strict orders and rigid formations, could not match this flexibility. After several hours, the first supply convoy of the Vorin was destroyed. Alien ships were forced to slow down, regroup, and defend what remained. General Krath's frustration was evident. "These humans, they are not simple prey," he muttered. "They are different." On Earth, the control room erupted in quiet satisfaction. Human engineers and pilots knew they had done something remarkable. Small, fragile ships had outsmarted a powerful fleet. Humans had proven that courage, intelligence, and creativity could overcome even overwhelming odds. Rian looked at the stars and felt a quiet pride. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "We are learning, they are learning, but we adapt faster. That is our greatest strength. No matter what comes next, humans will survive." Far away, the Vorin fleet hovered, regrouping and repairing damaged vessels. General Krath stared at Earth, realizing that arrogance and raw power alone would not win this war. The humans were clever, bold, and capable of surprises he had never expected. The lesson was clear. Humans adapted quickly, worked together, and turned even the smallest chance into an advantage. The first supply raid was a small victory, but it showed the galaxy that humanity could not be underestimated. And as humans prepared for the next battle, their courage and intelligence shone brighter than any weapon. They were ready to face the Vorin again, stronger, smarter, and more determined. The war had begun, but humans were learning faster than their enemies. And that learning, that ability to adapt, would soon become their greatest weapon. The Vorin fleet had grown cautious. After losing several supply ships, General Krath ordered his forces to tighten formations and guard every vessel. But humans were already planning the next move. Commander Rian studied every report, every map, and every weak point. The first battle had taught him one thing: humans survived because they adapted faster than their enemies. Now it was time to strike back. "Sir, our scouts have located a lightly defended Vorin outpost near Jupiter," Lieutenant Mara reported. "It stores weapons and repair materials. If we hit it, we can slow their fleet even further." Rian nodded. "Good. Prepare the strike team. We will move carefully, but we must act decisively. This is our chance to show them human ingenuity." The strike team moved quickly. Small human ships darted through the space between asteroids and comets, invisible against the darkness. Each pilot knew the plan perfectly. Every maneuver was precise yet unpredictable. Humans were small, but their creativity made them dangerous. Soren led the first wave. His fighter slipped past alien patrols using debris fields as cover. He deployed a device that emitted false signals, tricking the Vorin into thinking their outpost was under attack from multiple directions. Confused, the aliens sent ships to defend areas that were not under threat. "Perfect," Rian said. "Let them chase shadows. We strike where they are weakest." Mara directed the second wave. They targeted the outpost directly. Explosives and EMP devices disabled the alien defenses one by one. Human engineers had studied the Vorin technology carefully and found small weaknesses that even the aliens had overlooked. By exploiting them, the humans avoided direct combat and minimized their own risks. General Krath watched the reports with growing anger. "How do they find these gaps? How do they always hit the right spots?" he demanded. His generals tried to calm him, but the truth was clear. Humans were clever, resourceful, and unafraid to take risks. In the asteroid field near the outpost, human drones moved silently. They attacked supply lines, damaged repair ships, and disrupted communications. Every strike forced the Vorin to respond, slowing their operations and creating confusion. The aliens could not predict the humans' next move because humans were not predictable. On Earth, the control room buzzed with quiet excitement. Engineers monitored every system, pilots updated positions constantly, and Rian directed the mission with calm precision. Humans were not relying on brute force. They were using intelligence, speed, and coordination to gain an advantage. Soren's fighter reached the outpost and released an energy pulse. The Vorin's shields flickered and defenses went offline. Mara's team moved in to finish the operation, planting charges to destroy weapons and supply storage. The explosion was controlled but powerful enough to cripple the outpost. The Vorin scrambled to respond. Small ships moved to defend the outpost, but the human team was already gone. They disappeared into the shadows of the asteroid belt, leaving confusion and chaos behind. General Krath slammed his hand on the command table. They escape again, he roared. These humans are not like the others. They learn, they adapt, and they strike when we least expect it. Rian watched the Voran fleet from his command station. We are small, but we are clever. That is enough to survive, and surviving is the first step to winning. The first counterstrike had succeeded. The outpost was destroyed, the supply lines disrupted, and the aliens forced to regroup. For humans, it was a small but significant victory. It showed that even the most advanced enemy could be outsmarted. Mara looked at Rian. Sir, they are going to change their tactics next. They will try to anticipate us, Rian nodded. Let them. Every move they make is information for us. Humans learn faster. We adapt faster. That is why we will survive. On one of the distant Voran planets, scientists tried to repair the damaged outpost remotely. Every attempt failed because humans had predicted every standard procedure. The aliens realized that their technology alone was not enough. Humans did not just react. They acted in ways that no alien could predict. Back in the asteroid field, human fighters regrouped. They communicated silently through signals, updating each other on enemy positions. Every pilot knew the importance of teamwork. Every move was a part of a larger strategy. Humans were small, but they were united, and that unity multiplied their effectiveness. General Krath stared at the stars. They are not strong, but they are dangerous, he muttered. Every battle teaches them something new. We cannot underestimate them again. Rian looked at the remains of the outpost and then at the Voran fleet far beyond. The humans had won the first counterstrike, but the war was far from over. Every victory was a lesson, every mistake a chance to improve. Humans would continue to adapt, to fight, and to survive against all odds. And deep in his heart, Rian knew this. Humans did not need to be the strongest. They only needed to be clever, brave, and united. That was enough to face any enemy, even one as powerful as the Voran. The stars above were quiet again, but the battle had changed something. Humans had proven they could strike deep into enemy territory and return. They had shown that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most advanced weapons. The counterstrike was over, but the war was only beginning. And humans, small and determined, were ready to continue. The Voran fleet had learned to expect humans to strike cleverly, but humans had learned even faster. Commander Rian and his team studied every move the aliens made, finding patterns and weaknesses. They did not rush into battle. They planned carefully, using strategy and deception as their most powerful weapons. Sir, the Voran are preparing a coordinated attack on our outer colonies, Lieutenant Mara said. They are sending multiple ships from different directions. They will try to overwhelm us, Rian's eyes narrowed. Good, let them come. We will be ready, and we will turn their attack against them. Humans began setting traps across the outer colonies. Mines were hidden in asteroid belts. Drones were disguised as small rocks. Decoy signals lured alien ships into empty zones. Every element was designed to confuse and slow the enemy. Humans did not need to destroy every ship. They needed to control the battle. When the Voran fleet advanced, they were confident. They had strength, size, and power. Yet as they approached, they began to encounter problems. Mines exploded near their ships, damaging engines and forcing evasive maneuvers. Drones darted in and out, striking lightly and disappearing before the aliens could retaliate. One group of human fighters feigned retreat, drawing part of the Voran fleet into a narrow asteroid field. The aliens followed, expecting an easy chase. Instead, they were trapped. Asteroids moved unpredictably, and hidden mines forced them to slow down. Human drones attacked from all sides, striking where the aliens least expected. Excellent, Rian said calmly. Patience, timing, coordination. That is how humans win. The Voran generals were frustrated. General Krath slammed his fist on the command table. They adapt faster than we do. Every move we predict, they change it. How can this be possible? Rian watched the battle unfold from his command station. Humans were not relying on superior firepower. They had none compared to the Voran. Their strength was in intelligence, teamwork, and courage. Every pilot knew their role. Every drone had a purpose, and every move created confusion in the enemy fleet. Soren led a small strike team to the heart of the alien formation. Using a combination of speed and strategy, they disabled a group of alien support ships. The Voran fleet began to lose coordination, forcing some ships to slow down and others to retreat. Mara directed the decoy operations. Signals mimicked large fleets that did not exist, causing the aliens to divide their forces. Human drones attacked the divided groups with precision, creating more chaos. The Vorin, used to strict formations and predictable tactics, could not respond effectively. Back on Earth, engineers and scientists monitored the battle. They updated drone positions in real time, recalculated trajectories, and repaired minor damages immediately. The humans were small, but their teamwork was unstoppable. Even the smallest mistake by the Vorin was exploited immediately. Hours passed, and the aliens began to retreat. Ships that had seemed unstoppable were forced to pull back, damaged and confused. General Krath's face was tense. For the first time, he realized that brute force alone could not win a war against humans. They were clever, unpredictable, and united in a way that no alien species he had encountered was. Rian stood quietly in the control room, watching the remnants of the Vorin fleet leave. "We survived. We gained momentum, and they will learn to fear humans," Mara smiled. "Sir, the colonies are safe for now," Rian nodded. "Yes, but the war is not over. We have turned the tide in this battle, but we must keep adapting. Humans win not because we are the strongest, but because we are smart, brave, and work together." In the aftermath, humans repaired their defenses quickly. They analyzed the Vorin attacks and learned from every detail. The aliens would strike again, but humans would be ready. Every small victory taught them more about the enemy and themselves. General Krath watched the retreating fleet, his red eyes glowing with anger and disbelief. "These humans, they are not like any species I have fought before. They survive against impossible odds. They adapt, they think, and they strike where we are weakest." Rian looked at the stars beyond Earth. He thought about every pilot, every engineer, every civilian who contributed. Humans had survived, adapted, and struck back. They had shown the Vorin that intelligence, creativity, and courage could overcome even the most powerful enemy. The outer colonies were safe for now. But the message was clear across the galaxy. Humans were not simple prey. They were clever, determined, and united. They would fight to survive, and they would continue to adapt faster than any enemy expected. And as the stars shone quietly above, Commander Rian knew this truth. Humans did not need the strongest weapons to win. Their minds, their courage, and their unity were more powerful than any fleet of alien ships. The turning point had arrived, and humanity had proven itself once again. The Vorin would return, stronger and more cautious. But humans were ready. They had survived the impossible, learned from it, and gained the advantage. The war had changed, and the galaxy would soon remember that humans were clever, brave, and impossible to underestimate. The Vorin generals had grown uneasy. Every battle against humans revealed the same truth. Humans were clever, adaptable, and fearless. Their attacks were precise, their tactics unpredictable, and their teamwork perfect. General Krath knew that brute force alone would no longer win the war. Commander Rian studied the reports carefully. The humans had survived every attack, disrupted every supply line, and outsmarted the Vorin at every turn. Now he had a bold plan. Target the alien generals directly. If the leadership fell, the fleet would collapse and humanity could finally gain the upper hand. "Sir," Lieutenant Mara said, "attacking the general's ships is risky. They are heavily protected, and one mistake could cost us everything." Rian's eyes were calm. "We are humans. Risk is part of survival. We have learned, adapted, and planned. If we strike together, we can succeed." Small human strike teams prepared for the mission. Fighters moved quietly through the asteroid belt, carrying explosives and electronic disruptors. Drones scouted ahead, mapping every Vorin ship. Humans had studied the enemy's formation for days, learning the timing, movement patterns, and defenses of the generals. The first target was a general's flagship near Saturn. Soren led the strike team. His fighter weaved between massive alien ships, avoiding energy blasts and mines. Using data from scouts, the humans approached from a blind spot the Vorin had never considered. "Ready?" Soren asked the team. "Ready," they replied. They struck simultaneously. Explosives disabled the shields, and electronic disruptors interfered with the ship's navigation. Chaos erupted on the flagship as alarms blared and alien crews scrambled. The humans were fast, precise, and invisible until it was too late. General Krath watched in disbelief. How do they reach our leaders?" he demanded. His red eyes glowed with fury. "They are not simple prey. They are dangerous beyond imagination." The humans did not pause. Another strike team targeted a second general near Jupiter. Using the same method of stealth and precision, they disabled defenses and caused panic on the ship. The Voran fleet faltered as communication between the generals became delayed and confusing. On Earth, Rian monitored every move. "Keep the teams coordinated," he instructed. "This is the moment we turn the war in our favor. Every general we neutralize brings us closer to victory." The attacks continued. Drones and fighters moved like shadows across the battlefield, striking at weaknesses the aliens had never anticipated. Each successful mission weakened the Voran fleet. Ships collided, engines failed, and supply lines were cut. For the first time, the aliens were forced to retreat strategically, not because they were overpowered, but because their leadership had fallen. Mara watched the reports with amazement. "Sir, they can't recover from this. The general's fall is creating total confusion." Ryan nodded. "Yes, humans do not always win with power. We win with intelligence, courage, and unity. And today that is enough." In the chaos, small Voran factions tried to regroup, but without orders from their generals. Their formations were broken. Pilots acted independently, often making mistakes that humans quickly exploited. The very strength of the Voran fleet, their discipline and hierarchy, had become a weakness. On one distant Voran planet, citizens watched in horror as reports of the general's defeat spread. Planets once considered safe were now vulnerable to human counterattacks. The arrogance that had allowed them to laugh at humans was gone, replaced by fear and disbelief. Ryan allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. "The path is clear," he said quietly. "Humans survive, humans adapt, and humans strike when the enemy is weakest. Today, we proved it again." Soren's team returned to Earth's orbital station. Engineers quickly repaired ships and drones, preparing for any counterattack. Even after the success, humans did not grow complacent. Every victory was a lesson, every risk a reminder of the stakes. General Krath, isolated and furious, stared at the distant blue dot of Earth. His fleet was damaged, his generals eliminated, and his pride shattered. "I underestimated them," he whispered. "These humans, they are not weak. They are something else entirely." Meanwhile, humans celebrated quietly. They had achieved what seemed impossible. They had struck directly at the heart of the enemy's leadership and survived. They had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and unity were stronger than size and firepower. Rian looked out at the stars. The war is not over, but the balance has shifted. The Voran know now that humans are not to be underestimated. Every battle we survive, every strike we make proves that humanity can face the impossible and win. The first wave of victories had changed everything. Human ingenuity had defeated the enemy's strongest commanders, turning fear and doubt into a weapon for humanity. The galaxy would soon understand that humans were clever, brave, and unstoppable when united. The Voran fleet began to retreat toward their home systems, their morale broken, their leaders gone. Humans had not just survived, they had won a major victory. The fall of the generals marked a turning point in the war. Humanity's creativity and courage had triumphed over arrogance and raw power. And as Commander Ryan looked at the distant stars, he knew one truth above all. Humans had proven that intelligence, bravery, and unity could change the course of history. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The Voran fleet was in retreat. Their generals were gone, their ships damaged, and their morale shattered. For the first time, the galaxy witnessed humans not only surviving, but striking decisively against a superior force. Commander Ryan watched the stars with quiet satisfaction. Humanity had proven its strength, not in size or firepower, but in courage, intelligence, and unity. On Earth, celebrations were subdued but heartfelt. Engineers repaired ships, pilots prepared for the next patrol, and civilians gathered to watch the skies. Everyone had contributed, from the youngest cadets to the experienced commanders. The victory belonged to all humans. Lieutenant Mara stood beside Ryan. "Sir, they are retreating. The colonies are safe. The Voran will think twice before attacking again." Ryan nodded. "Yes, Mara. They will remember that humans are clever, brave, and unpredictable. But our job is not done. We must rebuild, learn, and prepare for the challenges ahead." Across the galaxy, the Voran struggled to regroup. Planets that had seemed secure were now vulnerable. The loss of their generals had caused confusion, and their fleet was scattered. Alien citizens whispered about the humans, fear and respect in their voices. No one had faced such a small species and lived to underestimate it again. Back on Earth, humans reflected on what had made them victorious. It was not strength alone nor advanced technology. It was intelligence, adaptability, and teamwork. Every trap, every strike, every clever maneuver had required humans to think faster and act smarter than the Vorin. Their courage had turned fear into action. Their unity had turned chaos into strategy. Ryan visited the training grounds where young pilots practiced maneuvers. He watched as they executed complex formations, dodged obstacles, and communicated flawlessly. These young humans were the future defenders of Earth, and they had learned from the battles already fought. Ryan smiled. Humanity's greatest weapon was not a ship or a weapon system. It was the human mind and spirit. Soren, still aboard his repaired fighter, joined Ryan. "It feels unreal, sir." "We actually did it. We survived against the Vorin and won." Ryan placed a hand on Soren's shoulder. "We did more than survive, Soren. We proved that humans can face impossible odds and overcome them. That is what makes us strong. We fight with our minds, our hearts, and together as one. That is the power the galaxy must never forget." Meanwhile, on distant planets once ruled by the Vorin, humans began to repair and reclaim what had been damaged. Colonies that had been threatened were stabilized. Trade routes reopened. Communication networks restored. Humans were not just warriors. They were builders, thinkers, and caretakers. Their victory brought hope not only to Earth but to all the worlds under threat. General Krath, isolated on a distant command ship, stared at the blue dot of Earth. His arrogance had been shattered and his pride wounded. Humans had survived every attack, learned from every strike, and turned every weakness into strength. He realized that no amount of size or firepower could easily conquer a species that thought, adapted, and acted with courage. On Earth, Ryan looked at the night sky. The stars were peaceful once again, but he knew that the galaxy was vast and full of challenges. Humans had survived the Vorin, but other threats might come. Yet he was confident. Humans had proven their ability to overcome the impossible. The courage, intelligence, and unity that had guided them in battle would guide them in any future challenge. Mara joined him, looking thoughtful. "Do you think they will return, sir?" "Perhaps," Ryan said. "But if they do, they will find humans ready. Humans do not surrender, and we do not give up. We learn, we adapt, and we fight. That is who we are. That is what makes us human." In the control room, engineers and pilots celebrated quietly. There were no loud parades, no unnecessary fanfare. The victory was earned through thought, precision, and teamwork. Every human, from pilot to engineer to civilian, had played a part. That unity had carried them through the darkest hours. Soren looked at Ryan. "Do you think we really changed the galaxy, sir?" Ryan nodded. "Yes. We showed the galaxy that humans are not weak, that humans survive, and that humans adapt faster than any enemy expects. Our courage and intelligence are our weapons, and our unity is our shield. That is the human way." As night fell over Earth, humanity looked to the stars with new determination. The Vorin had underestimated them, and the lesson had been learned. Courage, intelligence, and unity had turned the tide of war. Humans had survived, adapted, and triumphed. The galaxy would never forget that humans were clever, brave, and impossible to underestimate. And as Commander Ryan gazed into the vastness of space, he knew one truth above all. Humans were ready for anything. Together they could face any enemy, overcome any challenge, and shine as a species capable of greatness. The war had been won, but more importantly, humanity had proven its strength, the strength of mind, heart, and unity. Humanity had triumphed.